Hey guys, welcome to my home. My home. I will be doing some reports and interviews from this fine sofa here in my living room. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for just taking a moment to connect with Arts District and with Recommend PPS. Um, I I love Guitar Wolf. Yes, it's true. They've been one of my favorite bands since I was a teenager. Some kind of noise, rock, punk, garage, lo-fi, kind of like the Japanese Ramones. I really love noisy rock and roll. And I'm not wearing matched socks because I never will. My mom still teases me about that to this day. I never wear matched socks. I don't wear matched socks because growing up, my hero was Bob Dylan. He was my Michael Jordan. A lot of kids memorize dinosaur facts or basketball statistics or, mineral, trivia or whatever. And I was like a Bob Dylan fanatic when I was a young kid. I mean, still, right? But especially when I was a kiddo, he really epitomized a lot of what I wanted to make, like the reasons I wanted to make music. And yeah, like my statistics were album covers and track listings and lyrics and chords. And I had a book of poetry of Bob Dylan's. I was probably 9 years old, and there's a poem called Advice for Geraldine on her miscellaneous birthday. And this is my favorite Bob Dylan poem. And come here, buddy. Chamero, come here. Come here. I don't think you can fit through there. Come around here. Go around through here. Good boy. Oh, jump over that thing. Come on. Smart dog. Look over here. Come here. Oh my God. This is my dog, Chamero. He's got his little Minecraft bandana. My son plays a lot of Minecraft. He's such a good beast. Yeah, so there was a line in that poem that said, never wear matched socks. And so I never did. Okay, so someone needs to come unplug my coffee pot because I set my office up in the kitchen and my computer is 3 feet away from the coffee pot, and I have been severely over-caffeinated this entire week. Ask anyone on my team. So I'm feeling incredibly privileged as I find myself employed, easily able to work from home. My industry, media, is all about adaptation and evolution, and so we are pivoting and adapting and collaborating and connecting. I haven't felt this close to my coworkers and my team and honestly my friends and my family and everyone in my life ever than I do now. And, I have so much gratitude that is what I'm able to take time to focus on and appreciate at this juncture. And you hear Chamero drinking water. He's a classic long form water consumer. He is a little camel. So as we are experimenting with different ways to communicate and connect, I invite you to join me and some friends and guests and folks, who knows who, along the way, to explore what this time means for us as artists, as creative people, as humans, in any realm. We are all creatives. And though not everyone would call themselves an artist, the very act of living life is an art form, and the very expression of simple day-to-day things are your means and medium to create. So this applies to everyone. This applies to all of the dormant skills and talents that lay within you, and all of the very alive, acknowledged skills and talents that lay within you. This is for the unexplored and the explored, and for the artists and the non-artists to see, how we both look on different sides to each other. I truly believe that artists are the visionaries that will shape the future. And, that this is a theme that comes up in this first interview that I've done here. And it has a lot to do with our responsibility as creative people to envision a future that works for everyone, and to really set the vision forth for the possibility that can be created, which is something that I have seen a lot of this week, and something that has emerged in almost every platform, in almost every avenue, in almost every person that I've come across to some way, to some degree, to some extent. And who more and who better to share this first platform with than my first guest, Inaiah Lujan. Inaiah is a Pueblo resident. He has lived there for a long time, and he is a lifelong musician, traveler, adventurer, songwriter, many, many things, designer, recording engineer, a spirited person, a deep person, spiritual person, and I have to be honest, a very dear, dear friend of mine. Gotta be transparent in the media age.
Absolutely.
When I made it before, we've known each other a long time, like almost 15 years, 14 years, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's 15, at least 15.
Oh my God. I lived in your tool shed at one point.
Yeah, that's right. It's so funny. I was at I had a doctor's appointment the other day, and they say, "Do you still live at 808 Acero?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's like 4 houses ago," but that was the house with the tool shed.
Yeah, I had that extension cord running out from the side of the house to the back shed.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Those were some times.
They were. Yeah, so we've got a true friend, a true brother, a true spirit on the show today with Inaiah. I'm lucky. You're lucky. Yeah, so how did you make the majority of your income up until a few weeks ago?
The majority of my income is through live performances, through touring, I have a studio here I call True Lou Sound, which I record bands, I produce records. So the majority of my income comes from that. Both those things have been put on pause indefinitely because we're limiting our social contact, and festivals, rightly so, I believe, are and everywhere in every place is limiting gatherings to, I think, 10 people at the maximum, or that could even be old news. News is happening fast. So basically the things in my life that have been a primary source of income are on pause. And another thing is, like, I was going to have an album release show, and that was kind of guaranteed money and record sales, and that was going to kind of launch me into a tour that would have lasted until May. So adjustments are taking place for sure.
Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar with booking a tour, can you just kind of describe kind of some of the steps you've had to go through?
Tours are it's a very intricate and delicate thing, and it seems like the time to book tours gets further and further out as I age in this industry. Like, it used to be like you're pretty solid with about 3 months in advance. Nowadays it's more like half a year. So a lot of people have to plan these things around, sometimes a half a year to a year in advance. And so I really feel for a lot of people who did that. I'm in a different situation because I had Treefort Music Festival booked up in Boise, which you were going to play as well, and also this festival out in Boulder Creek, Santa Cruz area called Do It Ourselves Fest. These were going to kind of be my start and end caps for a tour. Well, for whatever reason, I just really didn't have a fire under me to complete the tour that would have taken me from point A to point B. I didn't book hotel rooms, which is very unlike me. I'm usually really on top of that sort of thing. I'm usually really like, I mean, I almost to the point where I stress myself out that I really need to do these things. But for whatever reason, I just didn't really have a fire under me to get these shows booked. And I kind of was like, I think I just need to like allow whatever's supposed to happen. And then all of this coronavirus stuff came. So I really only had to cancel, I think, 3 shows where other people are canceling 90-day stretches or whatever the case may be. And I really feel for them because, I mean, if I was in that situation, knowing the work that goes into it, I definitely would be devastated.
Yeah, and just these national artists and anyone who relies on touring as an income, which is most musicians, you know, especially at a certain point. I mean, it's insane to think of how many people have literally lost their jobs, you know?
Yeah. And I do actually make, I know I mentioned previously that I make my money from live performances and recording, but specifically touring. Touring is where I make the majority of my income. And I try to do that seasonally, you know, because just getting booked for festivals and the performance fees that I've kind of built myself up to receiving, like that's where I get the majority of my income really is touring. So as the news for the coronavirus kind of developed, I mean, already like when I kind of found out that, okay, people are being encouraged to social distance, people are encouraged to keep gatherings down. So I was already kind of catching the vibe that, okay, the CD release show is going to have to be either canceled or postponed. So my first idea was kind of like talking with the hosts of the venue hosts, which is the Pueblo Pulp, which is a local magazine, Last Leaf Printing, which is a local silkscreen print shop, both amazing contributors to our artistic community. And they've got a new spot called The Garage where they've kind of combined forces. And it's kind of it's a new venue here in town, but it's kind of just getting off the ground. So my instincts were to reach out to them and just kind of have a conversation. And my initial idea was to have a show where people could come if they wanted to, but we would basically broadcast that show out into to the people who otherwise didn't feel comfortable being in a social setting, or we could broadcast it so our reach actually could get further. So it's like, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe we can potentially reach more people and create more awareness. So as the news developed and we realized that even small gatherings are probably not a good idea at this point. And then in my particular case, mentioning my health problems of 2019, I mean, I have a respiratory autoimmune issue right now. So I'm I'm more at risk than, you know, an average healthy young person. So I had to really take my own health into consideration. And I'm like, okay, maybe going and doing that is maybe not the right idea too. So I just kind of had this fire under me to tape a concert here in my home. And that kind of turned into this virtual release show, that idea that I came up with. And so I basically recorded it last week, and I've been using this week to promo it and wanting to keep the same release date because March 21st had significance to me. You're a study of tarot and astrology as well, which I've always admired. But yeah, the 21st is you know, moving from the water and emotions of Pisces into the fire of Aries, and you know, usually is marks the springtime too, although we've had springtime is the 19th this year. But I chose that date for a specific reason, so I felt very adamant to keep that date intact, even though it was no longer going to be a physical release show.
That's really beautiful. Yeah. And so describe how people can attend your digital virtual release show now.
Absolutely. So the best way to do it is to go to my YouTube channel. That YouTube channel is youtube.com/inaiahlujanmusic. And you'll see a video that says "Do What You Want To" virtual concert, and you can hit a bell and get reminders, or you know, you can just tune in when it's going to be presented, which is 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, tomorrow, the 21st. And yeah, I'm super excited about it. It was a lot of work to pull off. And to be honest, I wasn't feeling in the best of health that day. I was having a lot of respiratory stuff. But like I said, I just kind of felt this fire to get something done. And actually have a video of outtakes out there in the world as well, of me basically putting this concert together and the countless takes that it took. I've been waiting. Take 1. Take 2. Take 3. Try that again. You know, I'm a perfectionist at heart, and I always want to put my best material out there to a point. You know what I mean? I don't want to remove the vulnerability or the sense of rawness and humanness from it, but I definitely want to put my best work out always. And so I think that's why it took me 8 hours pretty much to film, and then another 8 hours to edit, you know? Yeah. And so the physical release is actually April 4th. That's when the CD is available. That's when the digital will be available as well. I encourage people to use Bandcamp, because Bandcamp, well, today, awesome. They're such an awesome company. They're giving 100% revenue to the artists, which is incredible. And they take a fraction of that revenue to begin with, compared to larger companies like iTunes or Spotify or whatever the case may be. So I always encourage people to purchase from Bandcamp if they can, because the majority of those proceeds are going to go to me, and specifically today.
Yeah, I love hearing you say that, because it does vary a bit from artist to artist what their preferred platform is. But for me too, totally Bandcamp. I love that it just is immediate cash in artists' pockets with, like you said, very little overhead by the company. Some royalties, you might see, you know, a $4 check after 3 months. It's like, you know, for the quarter before, but Bandcamp is like in the moment.
Bandcamp feels very much like the scene and DIY ethics that I came from, like that I was kind of forged in. It feels like an extension of that punk rock sort of attitude and vibe. And I think that's what I love about it. And so you know, even though I've gone in the direction of Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff, that's just the game we have to play. Bandcamp is still where I make my purchases, you know. I've really used this time of isolation to really be a champion for other artists and other music out there right now too. So I've been, you know, even though I'm having a little bit of a financial hit, as is everyone, I've also been getting on Bandcamp and ordering albums and getting tapes and getting vinyl, because I'm a fan of music, you know?
Yeah, there is a immediate like network of support that has been really evident this week that I have participated in and felt really heartened by as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it feels incredible. I'm like, it's such a contrast to the sort of to the scare, I think, that we're feeling on the one hand of like the public safety of humanity, and this other side being a very positive and encouraging and inspiring time to be alive. Like I'm very much more tuning into the inspiration side of things, and I'm feeling this sort of warmth and love and passion that has really reignited that spark, you know. And I find that really curious as we move into the fire of Aries, that we're all feeling this passion, you know.
Yes, it's so interesting that there is as near of a universal experience as probably happened in our lifetime.
Right. Oh yeah, and it gives me chills just thinking about it, you know. And I also think that, you know, the flip side of that coin, which is we are living in isolation right now, and we are being quarantined by choice, is that we get to really focus on interpersonal things. We get to focus on rest. We get to focus on self-care. Like my day is kind of consisted of like work in the morning, self-care in the afternoons, rest in the evenings, and then the late evenings I'm feeling drawn to further my studies into like esoteric stuff that I've always been interested in. I'm diving deep into tarot and astrology and really getting back in tune with that side of myself, because it's a big part of who I am, you know?
Yeah. And this is almost a kind of paving or re-solidifying of a lot of the kind of mood that this year is into.
I absolutely agree. And I also find it interesting, speaking of tarot, that to me, everything that we just mentioned has to do with like moon energy. It has to do with like intuition, and it has to do with like going in and having a conversation with our subconscious and really bringing a lot of maybe internal grief or strife out to the forefront and managing it and discarding that which no longer serves us. And interestingly enough, the moon card is also represented by Pisces, which is where we're coming from. We're coming from the water. We're coming from the emotions. Like those are the things that we got to deal with, and now we get to kind of be rejuvenated and ignited by a spirit of togetherness, and it's a incredible time to be living.
It is, yeah, totally. I remember my friend David in San Luis used to tell me that the phrase "May you live in interesting times," this Chinese proverb. He told me one day, he's like, "It's actually a curse, Kate."
Seriously, it's incredible, and I think the general vibe I'm feeling is that people are really people really come together in time of crises, and people, and especially like just watching the artists find their way to work around this is why we're considered creative people.
Yeah.
It's why, you should give us all your money. No, but you know what I'm getting at. Like I'm just so blown away by just the resilience and the sense of togetherness. And there doesn't seem to be, at least in my perspective and what's showing up on my feed, there seems to be a very selfless vibe happening right now. It's like we're taking care of ourselves, but we're also taking care of each other. And that's like, to me, is so inspiring.
It is. We're showing up for each other, and we're taking a stand to make sure everyone's all right, and for our personal health and the well-being of our community. It's like all those things we hear about are truly rising to the top, and it is
and we gotta rise to the occasion and use this as an opportunity to change for the better and for good.
As artists are shifting to move to digital platforms or doing virtual shows, do you have any advice or anything you've noticed or picked up as you've put your show together?
I think right now, more than ever, is an important time to really trust our instincts and to really do our best to tap into our intuition. Because I think that artists, musicians, they've always really been at the forefront of every revolution. Like we've really helped to usher in new eras, all the way back to the Renaissance and further. It's like, I think that we have an opportunity now to really empower ourselves to kind of be that change. And but also I think that the most important thing in my case, and maybe this applies to others, is to also take the rest and take the time for self-care and feed yourself and and take breaks. And because I think that we're like batteries, and when our batteries are depleted, we can't really do much in this world. But when our batteries are full, in other words, we're taking care of ourselves and we're restoring that energy, we can do so much. There's an endless amount of things we can do, an endless amount of good we can do in the world. And that starts with like taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What are your favorite like self-care practices?
I just did another great thing that's coming out of this crisis is webinars, is people doing web classes and just being like, yeah, come and do this for free, or kick some money in my Venmo. There's like this amazing education happening right now. And I took a class from a friend in Chicago that was all about self-massage and Chinese medicine and accessing these pressure points that helped me with my breathing. It was like, it was incredible, but it made me realize that, physical touch is a big part of my love language, and I'm quarantined right now. I'm a single man. And so just learning how to kind of like touch myself in a way that feels very nurturing and feels very comforting. Like that's another form of self-care that I've only just kind of stumbled into, and thanks to this quarantine, that people are sharing, they're sharing their knowledge with the world. And it's really just, it's so inspiring. I can't say that enough.
Making me tear up. It's really cool.
Good. It is. It's an incredible time. I think
Yeah.
tearing up is wonderful. I've been crying on a regular basis, and I don't cry. Like, that's something I've struggled with since I was a teenager. I've been through a lot of difficulties in my life, especially physical and medically. I've had a lot of trials and tribulations, and that have not allowed me to like really access emotions, because I think I've just kind of built a wall around my heart to protect myself. I don't think that's an uncommon thing to do. And actually, I talk about this in my podcast, which, if I can plug my podcast, I got a podcast called Cast the Line Podcast, and it talks about creative wellness. And what I mean by creative wellness is what we do to create space for that creativity and that energy to flow in our lives. And my most recent podcast was kind of about being in quarantine and about making a lot of connections to past trauma and basically just being as vulnerable as I can be, to realize that right now my lesson in life is really to like come back and be in my body and really be present, because circumstances has kind of put me in this position where I wasn't in my body for a while, and now I'm learning what that means again,
Yep.
or maybe even for the first time. I don't know.
Totally, absolutely. Yeah, and now here you have mandated by God time to explore and solidify and really
Right.
what that means for yourself.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's as if all the obstacles in my life have been removed, so I can really focus on those things, and not to say that doing a tour or playing shows are obstacles per se, but they can, even the things you love can be distractions from yourself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I've been shocked because I'm a very active person. I have an event almost every night between playing shows or work or just
Oh
whatever.
yeah, I know that about you.
And like, to not have anywhere to go, it's shocking to my system. And it is like, honestly, so relieving, because I have so much crushing social anxiety, that like the absence of social anxiety, because I know I can't go anywhere, is
Right.
I never realized how
Right.
an impact that had on me.
No, same. Same. And like, for me, like my realization is that like I don't ever stop. I'm much like you. It's like I've got 7 days a week planned, and it's from sun up to sundown. And it's like, now that I have all this time, excuse me, I'm learning how to take rest. But I'm also learning that I'm really bad at that, and I've got to take baby steps to be good at it, because absolutely. I laugh at myself daily, but it's like, I'm a workaholic, you know what I mean? Like, due to circumstances concerning my health, I've had to give up a lot of things, like, sugar and drinking and just stuff that I was using to self-medicate, and stuff I was using to distract myself from really digging into those deep, dark places of my psyche. And now I get to kind of deal with that, and I have the space to deal with that, but I have to be careful not to just replace all of those things with work, because that's something that's really easy for me to do.
Yeah. I really want to continue to check in with you as you are, reporting live from your home, as I'm reporting live from my home. Do you think we can continue to pop in once a week or every couple of weeks?
I would love that. Absolutely. And, you and I had a hang scheduled for Wednesday, and obviously we had to cancel for obvious reasons. And so this is a great way to like get to hang, and I love it.
Yeah. Can you let everyone know again how they can watch your concert and listen to your music?
Absolutely. So youtube.com/inaiahlujanmusic, and also check out my podcast, castthelinepodcast.com. You can go to inaiahlujan.com, which will kind of take you to a place that has all these links. Everything I've talked about, it's got links for all of it. So I'm really looking forward to this virtual concert tomorrow, and I thank you for your time, Kate. I love you so much.
Oh, I love you too, brother. Leo and I will definitely be tuning in and catching your concert tomorrow night. Can't wait.
Awesome.
Thank you.